Welcome to That Sounds Terrific in the 585. Join hosts Nick Koziel and Christine Green as they spotlight the incredible leaders, visionaries, and innovators shaping Rochester and the 585 community. From transformative stories to big ideas, we celebrate the people making our community a better place to live, work, and thrive. So sit back, relax, and listen to what makes the 585 sound terrific.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to That Sounds Terrific in the 585. I'm Christine Green with Nick Koziel, and today we have Sarah Mead as a guest. Sarah does all kinds of terrific things in the 585, including she's a children's author, a freelance journalist, and she is very involved in children's literature and children's authors here in our area. And I'm going to let Sarah start off and tell me a little bit about your participation in, I think it's the Rochester Children's Book. You tell me. So I get it right.
Yes, so I lead a local group of authors and illustrators called the Rochester Area Children's Writers and Illustrators. And if you were thinking of the book festival, we also support the book festival, so I'm one of the coordinators of that as well. But yeah, I've been leading this group of authors for a couple of years now, and it's just the best thing. Children's authors are just the best kind of people. They're warm, they're hilarious, and they're always there with great advice. Um, yeah, it's tricky. So I am tasked with creating a programming for anywhere from people who are just brand new to writing and don't even know how to get published, all the way up to best-selling and even Newbery Award-winning authors. So I kind of have to create a program that appeals to everyone.
Yeah, that
But
can be
it's
a challenge. That sounds super challenging.
yeah.
Yeah, it does. Um, how did you get involved with this, particularly with we'll talk about the book festival soon, but tell me a little bit more. Did you create this group of authors, or is it something you joined and then fell into a leadership role?
Yeah, gosh, no. This group has been around since I want to say 1989.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so um, I joined the group when I had a newborn at home and I was reading a lot of picture books. And I kind of always knew I wanted to write books, but it was just something that I did for fun. I was an elementary school teacher. But once I had the time to be at home and I was just reading books all day long with my kids, um, it really started to feel like something that I could do. So I joined, and um, gosh, I was there for quite a while and then just did a lot of volunteering in the group. I was on the board in different positions as membership coordinator. And then eventually they asked, and I said no repeatedly to be the president. It's very out of my comfort zone. Um, but eventually I said yes. And yeah, it's been great.
Here you
Well,
are.
yeah, it does sound super terrific. And how does how does one get involved with this? Like, I mean, I know how you kind of get involved, but can you tell us a little bit more about the program itself and what you all do?
Yeah, so you can go to rackway.com to find out more, and there's a great video on there that I put together. It's myself and another Rackway member, and we kind of walk you through the steps to becoming published and what Rackway is, and if it might be the right fit for you. But basically, it's we meet every month. And there's a presentation. We provide speakers. So it's either an author, an agent, an editor, an illustrator. Um, and so it's a monthly meeting. And then there's many meetups, casual meetups throughout the year. We have an annual picnic. We all volunteer at the book festival in November.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a pretty dynamic group. How many members would you estimate that you have right now?
We have just about over 100 members,
That's pretty big.
which is it's wild. There's so many talented people here right in the Rochester area. It's great. And one of the first things that I did when I became president was I moved us out of the suburbs and into the neighborhood of the arts.
Mm.
And Chris Banning and everyone at Writers and Books have been so great hosting our authors there in their beautiful space. So that's where we have our meetings.
That's super cool. I mean, like to, put it right into the city into the art district. I know that like they're really trying to revitalize that area too.
Yeah.
So
And it's just great for people, artists and writers who live in the city to have easier access to our group too.
yeah. So you meet monthly and like are there like costs and things like involved? Like how does that part work?
Yes. So it's $35 a year, which is probably the cheapest
My God.
publishing kind of publishing membership you can do.
Wow.
Yeah,
Like that's too expensive. No, but like
I
how
know.
how is that all? That's great. I'm gonna
It's
join
pretty great.
tomorrow.
I know
They're-
most of our members will say like, oh, that's per month. Okay. And we're like, no, that's per year. So, but it's a 100% volunteer run.
Mhm,
So the only thing that our dues go toward really are paying the speakers and to bring them in.
mhm. So can you talk a little bit more about like, when you have a speaker come in, like what to expect when you come in and do that?
So we're at children's authors and illustrators.
Hmm.
So we will get authors anywhere from board books, picture books, all the way up through YA. So we'll have people come in and talk about their writing process, their path to publication. And, our members can ask them any questions. Some of our meetings, the meeting we just held in September is one of my favorites. So it's called First Pages Night, and we don't have a speaker. And instead, everyone who wants to brings the first page or artwork of whatever they're working on, and they get up and they share with the group. And that's just such a wonderful night to celebrate what everybody's been working on and just to see, the sheer talent of the group.
What are you working on? I mean, you're part of this group because you're a children's author and you're an
Yeah.
agented children's author. Tell us about what you're working on in terms of children's literature.
So that was, my big news was I just signed with a literary agent at the end of August. And
Congratulations.
thank
Yeah,
you.
that's amazing.
And my debut middle grade novel just went out on sub this Friday. So it went out to 9 editors from all the big publishing houses.
Awesome.
My incredible agent, Katie Munson, is ridiculously organized and tenacious. She scours the publisher's marketplace deal announcements and was noting every editor who has recently acquired a middle grade with similar themes or characters. And we're so excited. But so the book that she just sent out is it's essentially Mean Girls meets Wicked, the musical.
Mhm.
So it's about a snarky theater kid, Joe, who is based on my oldest daughter. And Joe is forced to leave New York City and Broadway to a boring Western New York town where she experiences mean girls in her new school. So she decides to cast spells on them all, only to find that karma comes back threefold. So now she has to decide what kind of a witch she's going to be on and off the stage if she's ever going to survive 7th grade.
That's really cool.
That
I
is
want to read
so,
that now.
I know, right? We're all going to read that book. And we
Yeah.
all have, yeah, like that's just so amazing. I love that. Where did you come up with the idea as, I mean, I know your kids and that your oldest specifically is very into theater
Yes.
and writing, obviously, as are you. But how did you come up with the witch aspect of it all?
Yeah, so my oldest has been obsessed with Wicked, the musical, ever since I took her when she was, I can't remember, she was little. And just everything. Like she's got Halloween decorations in her room all year long. She has, everything Wicked, and it's always been our favorite musical. And I just have always loved middle grade. I feel like even when I grew up, I continued reading middle grade books. I just love
Mhm.
them. And I had been writing picture books for years. And somebody said to me one day, like, you should try to write a middle grade. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. That's too hard. But I kind of had this story idea, and I found myself writing a scene here, a scene there when I was, sitting in the parking lot waiting for them to come out of rehearsal or wherever. And when COVID hit and we decided to keep the kids home for a remote year, I said to myself, like, this is it. I can't teach right now. This is like now or never. If I'm going to do it, it's going to be now. And so that
Mhm.
was the year that I wrote it.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy. And like COVID, it's kind of how this show was born. Like the original show, That Sounds Terrific, was it sort of, I called it, a creative renaissance. There were some tragic things that were going on with COVID itself, but a lot of people found that time to be creative again and return to creativity. And that's kind of what I did too. I didn't write a book, but it's on the bucket list. And Christine knows me. I'm all
Yeah,
over the
you've got to
place.
write.
I got enough bucket lists. So,
We
but
all do.
yeah. But that's so cool. And I would love to write a story about some of my kids, but I don't know if I would survive that. How is she cool with you basing a character or
Oh,
part of a character
she
on
loves
her?
it. And she's an incredibly talented writer herself. But she's one of my best critique partners, and she's great. Just if nothing more than to tell me, Mom, 12-year-olds don't say that. So um, it's been invaluable having her, there to give me feedback. But
That's
I
great.
think the kids are so good for story ideas. I mean, you've got kids, one of my favorite picture books that I ever wrote, I wrote sitting on a giant plastic tooth in the dentist's office, watching my kids get their teeth cleaned. So, it can happen anywhere.
Yeah, inspiration is a funny thing.
Mhm.
Can you tell me a little bit about how the authors group supported you while you were writing?
Oh gosh, yes. You know what? These people, as much as I volunteer, as much as I do for them, I get so much more back from them. So within the group, I found my critique partners. So I have three different partners that I meet with separately. So I have one person, Heather, who I meet with once a month, and we swap picture books. And every month I have to send her two new picture books, which is a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And she's been so great. And then I have another critique partner, Jackie Yeager, who's another local author who would be a great guest on the show. And she and I swap 5 chapters at a time of our middle grade books, and then we'll meet monthly and give each other feedback and go through those. And then I have a third critique partner who's she's so special to me. She is my accountability partner, and that's Yuko Jones, who's a local illustrator. And not only is she great at looking at my picture books and letting me know if I've left room for the illustrator and that whole side of it, but she will text me every day and say, okay, I'm going to do this today. What are you working on today? And she keeps me honest. So,
That's
and
awesome.
just
Yeah.
having this group of people, and there's so many more people, there's so many people in the group who I can go to with, for advice, any question that I have, and they're just always there. When one of us has a book launch or a book signing, everybody comes, and yeah, there's just nothing like the support.
That's awesome. I mean, you sort of just described my co-host because that's what I need. I need a village to kind of kick me
Yeah.
in the butt and keep me going. And Christine has
And write your book.
been so, yeah. Well, now you're going to be pushing me for that too, especially and then if I spend $35 a month or a year in this case, I'll have other people tell me, oh, you got to be doing it.
That's right.
Because I think that's part of the challenge for writers and artists sometimes that are all alone. They need inspiration. They need someone to keep pushing them to keep working. And I think that group is like really really an awesome idea, and I'm glad that you came on the show to talk about just even that part, and then to put that on top of everything, well, the stuff you're doing as far as an actual author. And that's so cool. I'm excited again, excited about that book. I'm like, I want to read that now because I
Yeah,
love Wicked.
it is really excited. I mean,
Um,
exciting. And in speaking of exciting, now tell us about how the authors group supports, or does it completely run the book festival? Tell us a little bit about that.
yes, yes. So the book festival is, gosh, I want to say it takes probably more than 100 volunteers to run the festival that day. There's just so many pieces to it. Um, and this will be our 27th year this year. And we've got tons of local authors. A lot of our group members will be there with their book signing, but the rest of us will be volunteering. So, like, I'll be in the craft room. You can visit me downstairs. Along with Megan Tonnery, we plan all the crafts for the kids downstairs. So we create activities that go with books that you can find upstairs. So like we'll be running flamingo bingo. So kids can play flamingo bingo and then go upstairs and find the book with that name. Or we'll have a snowy owl for Owl Moon. And we have 2 rooms where presentations are happening on writing and illustrating for kids. And those are for all ages. But, we'll get teachers and librarians, we'll get lots of kids. And then, of course, there's Read to Me Corner, where every 20 minutes there's a new read aloud by one of our picture book authors. But the festival has such a great reputation. So we do have a lot of local authors and illustrators, but we also have people flying in from all over the country to be a part of it.
Wow.
Super cool.
What
Yeah.
people might not know about though is that so Vivian Vandeveld started the festival back in 1997.
I've met
And
her.
yes, and she's so great. But she actually leads an outreach program every year in October called Festival to Go. So we bring the book festival to kids in some of the Rochester City schools where they might not have access to the festival. Um, so she chooses a few schools every year and recruits a whole group of us to go in and do free author visits in the classrooms. And local librarians like Janet Bird, our RACWE members, Altrusa, we raise money and donate money so that in addition to the author visits, each child goes home with a book signed by their visiting author, and copies for the school library.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing work. Supporting literacy in any community among young people is incredibly important. And the fact that, and I do know about the To Go Festival, and it's such a wonderful part of the 585 community. Is one that we have so many talented people, but there's so many talented people willing to put their ego on the back burner to support children and children's learning and children's creativity. So yeah,
Yes.
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You made me think of another question about the group actually. So like, do you have a lot of young members, like, people that are aspiring authors?
Yeah, so it's a good mix. I will say we do have a lot of older members because people have stuck with it since 1989. We have some of the original members there. But there's a huge trend lately. We've been getting a lot of younger authors. One of our members is Mackenzie Reed, who's got I think her second YA is being released. but she's got to be college age or fresh out of college. So it's a good mix. It's great to see. And yeah, we have a lot of pre-published authors, but then a lot with experience and yeah.
That's cool. You did say at the beginning that there was a big range of like, skill level and
Yes.
stuff, but I just wasn't sure if you had like, kids coming in and trying to write and aspiring to write, and if that's so cool. Awesome.
Well,
Oh, yes. Yeah, we
Oh.
do. It's adults only in our group, but I know my kids have asked repeatedly when they're going to be allowed to join.
oh,
That's great.
So
amazing.
I had to actually start a writing club at my youngest daughter's school because she just wouldn't stop asking.
I love it. I love it. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your writing for 585 and 585 kids, specifically your partnership with your daughter? Is that something you'd like to talk about today? Because I'd love
Oh,
to hear about that.
yeah. So back when I decided that I wanted to write the novel, I thought, well, I might seem more, I don't know, professional if I had a couple of writing credits. So I remember pitching Christine a couple of story ideas, and she was like, "Okay, I like this one. Here's your word count. Here's your deadline," and that was it. And I've been writing for them ever since. But my favorite part of 585 Kids is the Audrey Asks section, which is my daughter's column, and she kind of does what you guys do, and she finds kids in the 585 that are doing really cool things, and she interviews them and photographs them.
Awesome.
It's
Awesome.
it's such a fun part of 585 Kids. Like when that article comes in and I need to edit it, it's just so much fun. And I really enjoy it because on the outside, at least with me, and in public, Audrey has a very quiet demeanor, and but she comes out in her writing, and she's obviously different around people she knows and cares about, and that's completely normal and good.
Mm.
But I just love to read this and be like, oh, she works so hard on this and she's so smart.
Oh, yeah, she is so painfully shy sometimes, like I was. I have to tell you, when I was in elementary school, I had a teacher who would put a sticker on me every single day, and it was a number, and it was usually the number 0. And I would have to go home with the sticker on, and it was how many times I had raised my hand that day.
Oh,
So
geez. That's kind of
this is
mean.
That
this
was
is what
actually kind of awful.
it's awful.
Yeah.
But this is what I mean when I say leading this group is so out of my comfort zone, and Audrey is so much like me, except for the fact that she can somehow go on stage and perform and be
Um,
this incredible actress and singer, and I don't know where she gets that from.
so not that I'm an incredible actor singer, but like what I found that is if I'm playing a character, so I do improv and stuff, and I've done theater in the past. If I'm playing a character, it's not Nick that's up there, right? So there's the different type of confidence that is instilled. But if I have to speak in front of, colleagues or, group of students or something like that about stuff that I know really, really well, it's out the door. It doesn't work as well. So but it's funny
That's
because I have a podcast, so
Well,
That's
you do a
exactly what
great
she
job.
says, though. She
right.
says the same thing. She's like, "Oh, that's not me up there. I'm that character." And then we go to a restaurant and she can't order off the menu.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
Oh, it's so interesting to kind of, see her mature and grow through this. And it's interesting what you guys are saying because I guess more like you, Sarah, in that I've never been on stage. To play a fictional character in any way sounds horrifying. Like I cannot do it. But if you give me, I'm good at playing me. If someone says, here's a mic, go up there and like start talking about yourself or interview people. I'm
yep.
on it. But I was also very painfully shy until about 14. Cried every single day of kindergarten,
Oh,
many days of first grade. And it's just who I am. It's just I had a lot of anxiety when I was little. So if my teacher made me wear a sticker, I mean, that would have been the end of me. It was odd. That's
Right.
pretty, that's very uncool. That
Yeah,
is
it's like soul crushing. I mean,
yes.
yeah. Oh man. And you know, it's funny because like my wife also says, because I come across as a huge extrovert, but you know, I'm participating in a leadership program here in the 585 Leadership Rochester. And one of the things that all those programs seem to do is like send you through, you know, the skills analysis tests and things like that to say like what kind of person you are. And I always fall into these weird like realms and someone I forget what the term is all of a sudden, but like I'm sort of an extroverted introvert. So there's certain situations or times, even like days, whatever mood I'm in, where like I gain a lot of energy from being an extrovert, but there's other times where it drains me completely and I'm just like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I just don't want to talk to people. But my wife always sees me as a, you know, undying extrovert. She's like, "Oh, you love talking to people. You love being in the center of attention." You know, but sometimes that takes so much energy.
It
So,
does. I refer to
so
myself as a highly sensitive extrovert.
mhm.
I'm extremely extroverted, but also
Oh,
when I want you to leave me alone, I will crawl in a hole
and
and shut the
disappear.
door like a little Mrs. Tiggy Winkle and just not see anybody, live in the ground with an apron. I don't know where I'm going, but everyone knows Mrs. Tiggy Winkle, right?
Everyone.
You guys don't know Mrs. Tiggy Winkle, do
I have
you?
no idea who you're what you're talking.
Beatrix
You're
Potter,
in
a
the
famous
weeds. You're in the weeds, Christine
Beatrix
Green.
Potter. You were an expert at children's literature, Sarah. No, I'm
I
not
know it. I
kidding.
know it. Now that you say Beatrix Potter, it's
Yeah.
ringing a bell.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mrs. Tiggy Winkle's a hedgehog
Okay.
who
Oh, now I know, I
who
can vision it actually now.
lives in a little hole in the ground. She wears little old-fashioned dresses and she irons her handkerchiefs and she just lives all by herself and she's just adorable.
Sarah, talk about soul crushing. We just crushed her soul.
I love Mrs. Tiggy Winkle. Anyway,
Oh,
back to you, Sarah.
yeah.
We want to talk a little bit about your love of the 585. I mean, you're the what you do with writing for our both of our magazines and through the children's authors group and the children's book festival in your writing, you've really become a champion of the community in this area, especially for children. Tell us a little bit about your connection to the 585 and why it's important to you. Did you grow up in this area?
Yeah, so I did. So I grew up in Pittsburgh, and I went to school here at Roberts. And I moved away to teach, so I taught in Southern Maryland in the DC area. Um, and then as soon as we got pregnant, I was like, we need to go back. We have to go back. I can't raise a kid anywhere but, back in Rochester. So I think especially writing for 585 magazine, it's just really opened up my world to meeting new people. And gosh, there's so much that I feel like I've learned and I've been able to grow as a person just through writing the articles for 585.
Mhm.
I'll never forget when I met Angelina Hilton at the Black Kids Matter Festival in Penfield. And I knew as soon as I started talking to her, I just knew I had to write about her. And she would be a really great guest, Nick, on your podcast too.
You would. I'm writing this down on my
Yes.
list of people.
Sorry, Angelina. Um, and that, you sent me to Brockport College to talk to the kids out there and to learn. And I learned about Fanny Barrier Williams, who I grew up here and I had never heard of her before and never learned about her in school, not
Yeah.
even in college, which I can't believe. And yeah, I just feel like everywhere you send me, I get to, learn new things. And I know it's total overkill, but if you assign me a story, I will go and read the biography of whoever it is, or, I do a lot of research and
Good. That's why your
it's so much
articles
fun.
are amazing.
Yeah, the research is really, really important. Knowing who you're talking to and going to be writing about, I can't imagine not doing it. So Christine is staring at me now.
I don't mean to. I was
Oh,
really looking
I
off into the distance, but Zoom doesn't quite, you're not
yes.
quite sure who's looking at where.
I was waiting for the hit back there. But okay, no. Um
Sorry.
no, that's cool. So Sarah, you've talked about a lot of different things here. Is there anything that we haven't asked you that you definitely want to share or talk about or, promote? Um
Gosh, hopefully I'll be back to promote my book when it comes out, but I would
yeah.
love to tell you guys the story of how I met my agent because I really love the story. And the way I met her feels like magic or fate somehow. And it also kind of is because of the partnerships that I made with Rackley. So this April, I attended a writing conference in Buffalo with my critique partner, Jackie. And I had never heard of it, but Jackie asked me to go with her. And she wanted us to sign up to pitch to agents and do this thing, this optional part of the conference where you submit the first page of your novel anonymously. Okay. It gets read in front of everyone at the conference and a panel of agents.
Ooh.
Okay, but just wait. And then, so if if any of the agents don't like it, they raise their hand.
Oh gosh.
And if you get two hands that go up, they immediately stop reading your page and they pretty much just talk about why it was awful.
Oh God.
Oh,
I'm terrible.
It was so brutal. But the good news was, even though there were a lot of hands going up that day, Jackie and I did not get any hands, and they actually said wonderful things about our pages.
awesome.
And my agent Katie was one of the agents on that panel. Now she was not one of the ones that I pitched to that day. So, and pretty soon after she was closed to queries, and I never sent my manuscript to her. So later, I learned that she had been thinking about my first page for months and hoping I would send it to her. So fast forward to August. I'm planning the September meeting for the Rackley meeting, and I remembered that she actually lives in Rochester, which is weird because most agents live in New York or LA. And so I reached out to her. I mentioned Rackley. I invited her to a meeting. I said, come meet some of our local authors. And she was like, oh, and I mentioned the conference too. And she was like, this is a long shot, but you didn't write that Wicked book, did you? And I was like, wow, you have such a good memory. Yeah. And she's like, no, send me that book. So I sent it. And 2 days later, she sent it back with notes. And we set up a meeting to discuss representation. And it just felt like it was meant to be, but it was also such a good lesson to me that you have to put yourself out there because you just don't know what connections you're going to make. And, things aren't going to happen if you don't put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
That is an awesome story. That is like sort of a
Yeah.
Cinderella story. And remember how I was talking about how I have like extrovert but introverted thoughts and feelings? Like I would probably never, ever, ever submit a piece of paper in front of an audience that would be read and then hands would go up. Like
Oh,
all the hands would go up for me and I would be crushed and cry
no.
somewhere in the corner, you
I,
know?
I didn't actually know what was going to happen. I think if I knew, I would not have submitted it.
Oh, you were
It was called
tricked.
Writers Got Talent, and I had never seen America's Got Talent.
Oh, yeah,
So
see,
I
that's what I
didn't
was
know about
thinking
like
too.
the buzzer. Yeah.
The golden buzzer.
Oh, whoa.
That's
I don't
rough.
think on the other end
Yeah.
of I'm not on the other end, but if I was an agent, my personality is such as I don't think I could I would just say I liked them all.
That's why
I just
you're
couldn't
that's
do
why you're
that
not an agent.
publicly. You know what I mean? Like publicly, I couldn't be like this
Yeah.
terrible out of here.
I could tell there were a few, like they were struggling, like they were
Yeah.
having a hard time putting their hand, like they really didn't want to. And to be fair, I think probably most of them will read a full page before deciding if they don't like something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe two. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
You'd hope so. You'd hope so. But like Christine, we're too nice. I don't think like that's why I'm not an agent. That's what I was saying. Like that's why you're not an
Yeah,
agent.
that's why we're not big famous book agents in Manhattan.
I'd drown through the whole entire manuscript, and even though I hated it, and I'm like, well, maybe it'll get better, just
Yeah,
kind of.
I know. I would too. I would too.
So, oh man, Sarah, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I know Christine appreciates it as well. I mean, thanks for coming on and telling us all about what you do.
Yeah,
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So, but we're going to put all of these wonderful notes into our show note descriptions. We're going to have links to where you can get Sarah's books and where you can see, honestly, her upcoming books. And definitely we'll have you come back and talk about when your book gets published. So super exciting.
Yes. Keep us posted.
Thank you. Oh, I definitely will.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And I'm the host, Nick Koziel, along with Christine Green. And thanks for being on That Sounds Terrific in the 585.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of That Sounds Terrific in the 585. Check out our website, www.thatsoundsterrific.com, to see a full list of episodes and learn more about our hosts, Nick Koziel and Christine Green. Be sure to find us on your favorite social media platforms or podcast listening service by searching That Sounds Terrific, and feel free to give us a 5-star rating if you enjoy our show. Until next time.